toxic family is a heavy burden. But what if the family you were born into wasn't just a twist of fate or coincidence, but a deliberate choice you made long before you opened your eyes to this world? I know, it's a question that feels like it holds more than meets the eye. But let me invite you, just for a moment, to lean into the possibility that your life, your struggles, and even your joys might be connected to a purpose greater than you've ever imagined. You see, this idea isn't about fate or a path carved in stone. It's something deeper, something that whispers to the part of you that's always searching for meaning. Imagine that every argument you've had, every moment you felt unseen or misunderstood, wasn't random chaos, but a thread in a grander tapestry, a design created not to punish you, but to help you grow. What if those moments you've labeled as failures or heartbreaks were actually doorways, each one leading you closer to the truth of who you are? Think about it. Could the family you have, with all their imperfections, quirks, and unspoken stories, be the perfect environment for you to uncover the unique strength only you carry? It's not an easy idea to embrace, is it? After all, when life feels like a storm, it's hard to believe the storm is part of the lesson. And yet, what if it is? Let me share something few people talk about. Across centuries and cultures, there's been this quiet, almost hidden belief that before we're born, we choose the circumstances of our lives, not as a punishment, but as an act of love, an opportunity to grow. Some call it a soul's contract, a pre-life agreement to walk into a specific life because it holds exactly the experiences we need to awaken our potential. It's as if in some vast, timeless moment, your soul looked at the infinite possibilities and said, "That's the life where I'll learn courage. That's the family where I'll understand compassion. That's the challenge that will teach me how to truly love myself." I can see the skepticism flicker across your mind. Why would I choose pain? You might ask. Why would anyone willingly step into difficulty? The answer isn't simple, but perhaps it lies in the truth that growth rarely comes from comfort. Just like a seed pushes through the darkness of the soil to reach the light, we too are shaped by the pressure of our experiences. The moments that test us most are often the ones that reveal the depth of our strength. But this isn't just about endurance. It's about transformation. It's about looking at your life, your family, and even your struggles with new eyes. Imagine for a moment that everything you faced was part of a larger story. A story where you're not just the victim of circumstance, but the hero in a tale of awakening. What if every argument, every tear, every unspoken word was a teacher in disguise? Here's the thing. When you start to see your life through this lens, something shifts. The weight of resentment begins to lighten. The wounds that once felt unbearable start to heal. And you begin to realize that maybe, just maybe, the people who have hurt you the most have also been your greatest teachers. Not because what they did was right, but because their actions pushed you to discover the boundaries of your worth, the fire of your resilience, and the depth of your ability to forgive. Not for their sake, but for yours. And it's not just the pain. The love you've experienced, even the fleeting moments of connection, carry their own magic. Those moments are breadcrumbs, reminding you of the beauty that exists even in the midst of chaos. They are whispers of the life your soul believed in when it chose this path. So what happens if you embrace this perspective? You might start to see your family differently, not as a set of people who owe you something, but as souls walking their own journey, each carrying their own invisible burdens and lessons. You might find a sense of compassion you didn't know you had, not because you condone their actions, but because you understand that they too are figuring it out as they go. And as you begin to shift, so does the world around you. The stories you tell yourself about who you are and where you come from start to change. You begin to see the power you hold, the power to rewrite the narrative, to break cycles, and to create a life that feels aligned with the person you're becoming. This isn't just a theory, it's an invitation. An invitation to step into a new way of seeing yourself and your life. To let go of the idea that you're stuck or broken and embrace the possibility that you're exactly where you're meant to be, even if it doesn't feel that way right now. Because here's the truth. Your life, with all its complexity and messiness, is a masterpiece in progress. And as you lean into this understanding, as you allow yourself to see the hidden threads of meaning and connection, you might just find that the family you were born into wasn't a random twist of fate, but a part of a divine design. A design meant to guide you home to yourself. So, stay with me, because this journey we're on together, it's only just beginning. Imagine a diamond resting deep within the earth, hidden away beneath layers of rock and soil. It begins as nothing more than carbon, ordinary, unremarkable. Yet, over time, under immense pressure and heat, it transforms into something luminous, something that can catch and scatter light in every direction. This is how your soul saw your family before you were born. Not as a punishment, but as the furnace where your brilliance could emerge. The pressure, the challenges, the moments that felt unbearable. These were not arbitrary. They were the conditions that could shape you into something rare and extraordinary. Let's not sugarcoat it. Family can be a tangled, chaotic force in our lives. Sometimes, it feels like the very people who should love and nurture us end up causing the deepest wounds. There is nothing easy or romantic about that. Pain within a family can feel like a betrayal at the most fundamental level. It can shake your trust, not just in others, but in the world itself. And yet, here you are, standing, breathing, searching for meaning in it all. There's courage in that search, even if you don't always recognize it. Perhaps, in some quiet part of you, there is a question that surfaces in difficult moments. Why me? Why was I born into this family, into these circumstances? It can feel unfair, even cruel. But what if you're not here to simply endure it? What if you're here because your soul saw something others missed? The potential to transform that pain into wisdom, to break the cycles that have repeated through generations. You are not a bystander in your family's story. You are the one who can rewrite it. The chosen one, not in the sense of grandiosity, but in the sense of responsibility. You carry the torch that others were unable to lift. And while that weight can feel overwhelming, it also means you have the power to light the way forward, to turn the darkness you've known into a beacon for yourself and for those who come after you. This isn't about pretending the pain isn't real or diminishing the hurt you've experienced. It's about knowing that even the hottest fires can temper steel into something unbreakable. Your resilience is the strength forged in the flames. Every time you choose compassion over bitterness, healing over resentment, you chip away at the old patterns and create space for something new to grow. Think of the stories passed down in your family. Some may be filled with love and laughter, but others may carry shadows of silence, unspoken traumas that no one had the strength to face. You are the one with that strength now. The one who can ask the questions that have long gone unanswered. The one who can bring light to the hidden corners where pain resides. It doesn't mean you have to fix everything. Some wounds aren't meant to be mended in a single lifetime. But by standing in your truth, by acknowledging both the beauty and the brokenness, you begin the process of healing. Not just for yourself, but for the generations that follow. This path isn't easy. It requires patience, self-compassion, and the willingness to forgive, even when forgiveness feels like the hardest thing in the world. But with each step, the burden grows lighter. And one day, you might look back and see that the very family you once saw as the source of your pain became the foundation of your strength. You are not alone in this. Many walk this path, even if their journeys are invisible to you. The shared experience of rising from the ashes of hardship creates an unspoken bond, a quiet acknowledgement that beneath the surface, we are all in the process of becoming. And just like the diamond that emerges from the depths, your light, when it finally breaks through, will illuminate more than just your own path. It will shine as a guide for others, showing them that transformation is possible, even when the pressure feels insurmountable. So, take heart. Your soul did not choose this path lightly. And as challenging as it may be, the brilliance that awaits on the other side will be worth every step. Imagine standing in the heart of a wildfire, the heat pressing against your skin, the air thick with smoke. It feels relentless, chaotic, destructive. A toxic family can feel much the same, an unyielding blaze that consumes everything in its path. And yet fire is not merely a force of destruction. It is also an agent of transformation. In the aftermath of a wildfire, new life emerges. The ash nourishes the soil. Seeds long buried awaken, and a fresh landscape begins to take shape. Could it be that the chaos you've experienced is not an end, but a beginning? The wounds you carry may feel deeply personal, but they are often echoes of those who came before you. Generations of pain, silence, and unhealed trauma have a way of weaving themselves into the fabric of families, creating patterns that repeat like an unbroken cycle. Your struggles are not yours alone. They are a continuation of a story that has been told over and over. But here you are, standing at the crossroads. The story doesn't have to continue as it has. You have the power to write a new chapter, not just for yourself, but for those who came before you and those who will follow. This is not a task for the faint of heart. It requires courage to face what others have avoided, to confront truths that have been buried in the silence of generations. But it is in this confrontation that healing begins. When you choose to address the pain, you are not just breaking a cycle, you are forging a new path. It's as if you were chosen for this very purpose. Not in a grandiose, heroic sense, but in the quiet understanding that some tasks, while heavy, are placed on the shoulders that can bear them. You are that person, the one who can carry the weight, transform it, and lay it down so that it no longer burdens those who come after. The weight of being the one chosen to break these patterns can feel overwhelming at times, as if the chains of generations are pressing against you. But it also holds an incredible promise. Imagine a chain that has bound your family for decades, maybe centuries. Each time you choose to face your pain instead of running from it, to heal instead of harboring resentment, a link in that chain weakens. Over time, the chain will break, and when it does, the freedom it brings will ripple through the lives of those around you and those yet to come. It's not about erasing the past or pretending the pain didn't happen. It's about transforming it into something that serves you and your family rather than something that binds you. Like the fire that clears the forest, the pain can make way for new growth. And while it's true that some of this growth may not be visible in your lifetime, the seeds you plant now will bear fruit in ways you cannot yet imagine. There is strength in this journey, even in the moments when you feel most fragile. Every step you take, every act of compassion, every moment of forgiveness is a victory. Not a loud, celebratory one, but a quiet, profound shift that changes everything. And as these shifts accumulate, they create a foundation that is unshakable. One day, you may look back and see that the very family dynamics that once felt like a wildfire became the fertile ground for your greatest growth. The truth is, you are not alone. Others walk this path too, even if their steps are hidden from view. And though the journey is deeply personal, it is also universal. There is an unspoken bond among those who dare to face the fire, a quiet acknowledgement that this work matters, not just for you, but for the collective story we all share. When you heal, you become a light, a guide for others who are still searching for their way through the darkness. So take heart. The path before you is not easy, but it is meaningful. And as you walk it, remember that the fire is not your enemy. It is the force that clears the way for something extraordinary. You were not placed in this family by accident. Your soul chose this journey, knowing the brilliance that could emerge from the ashes. And when that brilliance finally breaks through, it will not only illuminate your life, but serve as a beacon for others, proving that even from the deepest pain, something beautiful can rise. Imagine standing before a mirror, its surface clear and reflective, showing you not just the image you're accustomed to, but the essence of who you are. It's easy to look at a reflection and critique what's on the outside. A blemish here, a wrinkle there. But what if this mirror didn't stop at the surface? What if it delved deeper, revealing the hidden corners of your being? The parts you've tucked away, the wounds you've carried for years. Your family, in many ways, is this kind of mirror, reflecting not just their own dynamics, but also the unhealed pieces of yourself. The frustration, the anger, the sadness that family interactions can stir within you. What if these emotions are more than reactions to others' behavior? What if they're signposts, guiding you to areas within yourself that need attention? It's not an easy truth to face. The tendency is often to point outward, to blame, to find fault in others. But what if the very things that irritate you, the dynamics that feel unbearable, are echoes of something within? A scar you've ignored, a fear you've suppressed, or perhaps even a longing you've been too afraid to acknowledge. Take a moment to consider this. What do you see in your family that provokes the strongest emotions in you? Is it control, judgment, neglect? Now, ask yourself, where in your own life have you mirrored these patterns? Where have you been controlling, or judgmental, or neglectful of your own needs? It's a hard question, isn't it? But it's also an essential one, because the mirror is not there to punish you. It's there to help you see what you've been unwilling to face. Healing doesn't come from fixing others. It comes from transforming yourself. When you begin to address your own wounds, the reflection in the mirror changes. The dynamics that once seemed fixed, unchangeable, begin to shift. The chains that bind your family's story are not only external, they're woven into the fabric of your inner world. By untangling them within yourself, you start to loosen their grip on everyone around you. Think of a ripple spreading across a still pond. When you drop a single pebble, the water moves outward in concentric circles, touching everything in its path. Your healing is that pebble. By doing the inner work, by choosing to face the shadows and bring them into the light, you set a ripple in motion. It's subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but over time, it begins to touch the lives of those closest to you. Your transformation becomes a quiet revolution, changing the dynamics of your family, not through force or confrontation, but through the undeniable power of example. It's not easy. There will be moments when the mirror feels cruel, when it reflects things you'd rather not see. But remember, the purpose of a mirror is not to condemn, it is to reveal. And what it reveals is not just the pain or the flaws, but also the incredible potential for growth, for healing, for love. Every crack in that mirror, every imperfection is an opportunity, a place where the light can enter. When you choose to heal, you are not just changing your life. You are altering the fabric of your family's story. The patterns that have repeated for generations begin to fade. The wounds that seemed eternal start to close. And while this transformation begins within you, its effects are far-reaching, touching lives you may never even know. So, look into that mirror with courage. Let it show you not just what's wrong, but what's possible. Let it guide you, not into judgment, but into understanding. And as you heal, as you grow, as you transform, know that you are not only breaking cycles, you are creating something entirely new. A legacy of resilience, of love, of freedom. And in that, you become not just a reflection of your family's past, but a beacon for its future. Healing isn't linear, and it's not easy. It's messy, but it's worth it. Imagine trying to untangle a ball of thread that has been knotted for generations. You pull one strand, and another tightens. You feel the urge to give up, to let the mess remain as it is. But somewhere deep down, there's a whisper that tells you to keep going. That whisper is your own resilience, a quiet but persistent reminder that the effort will reveal something beautiful. To begin, you must look closely at the knots themselves, not with judgment, but with curiosity. This is the foundation of awareness. It starts with noticing the way certain phrases echo in your mind, the way patterns seem to repeat like the chorus of a song you didn't choose. Take a moment to write them down, to see them outside yourself. It might be painful, even overwhelming, to trace how these threads of behavior have shaped your life. This awareness is your first tool, a light that pierces through the fog. It's not about assigning blame or labeling anyone as a villain. It's about seeing things as they are, without judgment, so you can choose a different way forward. But awareness alone isn't enough. It's the first step, the flashlight illuminating the path. The next step is self-love, a concept often mistaken for indulgence, but in truth, it's as vital as breath. Imagine building a fortress, not to shut the world out, but to protect what is sacred within. Setting boundaries is the act of laying those stones. It might feel foreign at first, even selfish, to say no when you've spent a lifetime saying yes. But each boundary is an act of reclamation, a declaration that your well-being matters. And over time, those boundaries don't just protect, they allow you to grow. They create space for joy, for rest, for the kind of love that doesn't demand a piece of your soul as payment. In this process, you'll stumble. You'll find yourself saying yes when you meant no, falling back into old patterns that feel comfortable in their familiarity. This is where self-compassion becomes your anchor. Instead of berating yourself for not getting it right, remind yourself that growth is rarely a straight line. Picture a sapling growing toward the light. Its path isn't perfect. Its branches twist and turn, but its essence remains unbroken. When you slip, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend, with kindness, with patience, with the understanding that each misstep is part of the dance of becoming. This journey, as chaotic and challenging as it might be, is also profoundly liberating. With each knot you untangle, with each boundary you set, with each moment of self-forgiveness, you're not just healing yourself. You're reshaping the patterns that future generations might inherit. You're proving, even if only to yourself, that pain doesn't have to be permanent, that cycles can be broken, and that light can emerge from even the darkest corners. And so, you keep going. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're willing to ask the questions. Step by step, thread by thread, you are crafting something extraordinary. And in that process, you're not just healing, you're becoming whole. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood aspects of healing. It often carries with it the weight of misconceptions, as though to forgive means to excuse, to condone, or to forget the harm that has been done. But forgiveness is not about excusing anything. It is about choosing freedom. It is the act of unshackling yourself from the chains of anger, resentment, and pain that hold you captive. Imagine for a moment that you've been carrying a heavy stone for years, its weight pressing into your hands, your arms, your soul. Forgiveness is not about pretending the stone isn't heavy or denying the ache it's caused. It's about realizing you no longer need to carry it. Perhaps the very idea of forgiveness stirs something within you. A resistance, a fear, even anger. That's natural. The wounds you've endured, the betrayals you've faced, they are not small things. To forgive can feel like surrender, like letting someone off the hook for their actions. But here's the truth. Forgiveness is not about the other person at all. It is a gift you give to yourself. It is saying, I choose to no longer allow this pain to define me. I release it, not because they deserve it, but because I do. It's important to acknowledge that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciling with those who have hurt you. It doesn't mean you invite them back into your life or pretend nothing happened. Forgiveness is not about rebuilding bridges that were burned. It is about crossing a new one that leads you to peace. It is the quiet act of reclaiming your own power and deciding that your healing matters more than your hurt. It's not about forgetting the wound, but about transforming how it lives within you. The memory may remain, but its sting lessens, its grip loosens, and its weight fades. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what would forgiveness look like for me? Not in some abstract sense, but here and now, in the reality of my life. Would it feel like a softening, a lightness, a breath of fresh air? Or would it feel like a trembling step into the unknown, unsure but hopeful? These questions are not easy, but they are essential. Because forgiveness is not a single act. It is a process, a choice you make again and again, sometimes daily. Each time you choose it, you take a step closer to freedom. Consider the moments you've held onto pain, replaying the words, the actions, the events that hurt you. Each replay carves a deeper groove in your mind, reinforcing the pain's presence in your life. But what if you could choose to let that replay fade? What if you could replace it with something else? A memory of joy, a vision of hope, a reminder of your own resilience. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It reclaims your present. There is strength in forgiveness that is often overlooked. It is not weakness or submission. It is courage of the highest order. To forgive is to look pain in the eye and say, "You will not control me." It is an act of profound defiance against the forces that seek to keep you bound. And in this act, you discover something extraordinary. The pain that once seemed insurmountable begins to lose its power. The person or event that once loomed so large in your life begins to fade into perspective. They are no longer the center of your story. You are. Let's be honest. Forgiveness is messy. It's not a clean, linear journey. Some days, it feels possible, even liberating. Other days, it feels like an impossible mountain to climb. And that's okay. Healing is not about perfection. It's about persistence. Each attempt at forgiveness, no matter how small or incomplete, is a step forward. Each time you choose to release even a fragment of the pain, you are rewriting your story. Imagine forgiveness as a river flowing through you. At first, the current is weak, barely moving. The pain and resentment act like debris, blocking the flow. But as you begin to let go, as you chip away at the bitterness and anger, the current strengthens. It carries away the hurt, little by little, until one day you realize the river is flowing freely. This river doesn't erase the rocks along its bed, but it moves around them, carving a path toward the sea of peace. What would it feel like to lay down the burden you've carried for so long? To take a deep breath and know that you are free? Forgiveness is not about erasing the past. It is about reclaiming your future. It is about choosing yourself, your joy, your peace over the pain that has lingered for too long. And as you walk this path, remember, forgiveness is not a destination. It is a practice, a way of living that invites grace into your life, again and again. You don't have to rush. Forgiveness is not something you force. It is something you allow. Start small. Begin with a single thought. What if I didn't have to hold this anymore? Let that thought grow. Let it take root. In time, it will blossom into something beautiful, a freedom that is yours and yours alone. And as you embrace it, you will find that forgiveness is not just an act of release. It is an act of profound love for yourself and for the life you are meant to live. You may not see it yet, but every crack in your heart, every wound you've carried, holds a gift. I know that might sound like a cruel paradox, like asking you to treasure the very thing that hurt you. But what if those wounds weren't just reminders of pain? What if they were doorways, unseen openings where your light, your strength could pour through? Imagine for a moment, the places that broke you are the same places where you can begin to heal. And in that healing, you find not just yourself, but something even greater. You are not your pain. Let that settle into your chest. You are not the weight of the disappointments you've carried, nor the bruises left by words that cut too deep. Pain has visited you, but it doesn't own you. What defines you is this: the way you've risen, time and time again, even when you felt shattered beyond repair. You didn't have a map for this, no guidebook to tell you how to put yourself back together. And yet, here you are, holding the pieces in your hands, shaping them into something new, something whole. Think of the strength it takes to face what others bury. It's easy to become lost in bitterness, to let resentment harden into armor. But you've chosen a harder road. With every act of forgiveness, whether it's forgiving others or even forgiving yourself, you've turned toward the light. That choice, however small it seems, is an act of defiance against the cycles that try to claim you. It's an act of creation, a quiet revolution. And here's the thing about healing: it doesn't just end with you. Each time you break a pattern, each time you choose love over anger or peace over chaos, you're not just rewriting your story. You're rewriting the stories of those who came before you and those who will come after. You are the bridge between what was and what could be. Every step you take ripples outward, touching lives you may never even meet. You carry the echoes of your ancestors, yes, but you're also planting seeds for a future they could only dream of. Their struggles, their unspoken dreams, their silent grief, they all live in you, waiting to be transformed. And you're doing it. You are the alchemist, turning generations of lead into gold, not through perfection, but through persistence. There's no rush in this journey, no timeline you have to meet. Healing isn't a race, it's a rhythm. Some days will feel heavy, like you're sinking back into the shadows. That's okay. Even in those moments, you are growing. Even in the stillness, the work is happening. The fact that you're here, now, listening, means you've already begun. You might not see it clearly yet, but the very act of seeking, of wanting something more, something better, is itself a kind of healing. That desire burns within you for a reason. It's the flame that has kept you alive, even when the darkness seemed endless. And that flame, it's brighter than you think. One day, you'll look back and realize the moments that almost broke you were also the moments that shaped you, not into someone hardened or bitter, but into someone who shines. And when that light reaches others, it will remind them of their own capacity to rise. That is your gift, not just to yourself, but to the world. So, take a breath. Feel the weight of those words. This path you're on isn't about erasing what's happened to you. It's about weaving it into the fabric of who you are, making it part of the masterpiece you're becoming. You are not the cracks in your heart. You are the light pouring through them, the glow that transforms the shadows. You are proof that even from the deepest wounds, something beautiful can grow. And that beauty, it's yours to share as far and wide as you choose. Freedom. It's a word that stirs something deep inside you, isn't it? A longing, a quiet ache. But what does it really mean? It's tempting to think of it as a grand escape, a severing of ties, a physical departure from everything that weighs you down. But true freedom, the kind that reshapes your life, doesn't always come with dramatic exits. It begins within. It starts when you decide, quietly but firmly, that you will no longer let the hurt, the chaos, or the toxicity define your worth. This kind of freedom is subtle, like the first breath of fresh air after a storm. It doesn't demand that you leave behind the people or places that shaped you, though sometimes that might be necessary. Instead, it invites you to step out of the shadows of their expectations. to reclaim the parts of yourself that were lost in the noise of their judgments or buried beneath the weight of their disapproval. Picture this: you, standing firm and unshaken, no longer twisting yourself into forms that were never meant for you, no longer running toward a validation that slips away the closer you get. You don't need it, not from them, not from anyone. The recognition you've been yearning for has always been within you, waiting for you to claim it. And the moment you do, the world around you begins to realign. But this is more than a realization. It's a call to action. Freedom is not a gift you wait to receive. It's something you choose, something you build. Start small. Set boundaries, even if your voice trembles when you do. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They're doorways that show others how to treat you and where they may enter. With each boundary you set, you take back a piece of yourself. And as you do, notice how the weight begins to lift. The guilt, the fear, the obligation to be everything for everyone, they start to loosen their grip. In their place, something new begins to grow. A sense of clarity, a confidence that doesn't need to shout to be heard. You don't have to carry their stories anymore, their opinions, their unresolved pain, their expectations. They are not your burden to bear. Let them stay where they belong, in the hands of those who created them. Your only responsibility is to your truth, to honor it, to protect it, to let it guide you forward. And here's the beautiful part. As you step into this freedom, you're not just changing your own life. You're sending ripples through the lives of those around you. When you stand in your truth, you give others permission to do the same. They see your light, your courage, and they wonder if they too can rise. You may never know the full extent of the change you inspire. A sibling who finally finds their voice. A friend who learns to set their own boundaries because they watched you do it first. A stranger who hears your story and realizes they're not alone. Every step you take creates waves, and those waves travel farther than you can imagine. This is how the world changes, not through grand gestures, but through quiet, steady transformations. One person at a time, choosing freedom over fear, truth over silence, love over resentment. And that person, it's you. Right here, right now, making the choice to break free. Not by running, but by rising. By standing in your power and letting the light of your truth shine. You are not trapped, and you never were. The key was always in your hands. All that's left is for you to turn it. So take that step. Set that boundary. Speak that truth. And watch as the world around you begins to shift in ways you never thought possible. Freedom isn't a destination. It's a way of being. And it's yours to claim. There's a reason you're here. Not just here in this moment, listening, but here in this life, in these circumstances, with the unique challenges and gifts that are yours alone. This isn't an accident. It's not random. Somewhere, long before you opened your eyes to this world, something within you chose this path, not because it would be easy, but because it held the potential for something extraordinary. You felt it, haven't you? That quiet whisper beneath the noise of everyday life. The one that tells you there's more to this existence than survival. It's the pull towards something greater. The sense that your pain, your struggles, your victories, they're all part of a larger story. One that only you can tell. You are here, not just to endure, but to transform. To take the darkness you've known and turn it into light. To take the pain and mold it into wisdom. This isn't a task for the faint of heart, and yet you've proven time and time again that your heart is anything but faint. Every step you've taken, no matter how unsteady, has brought you closer to the person you were always meant to be. Think of all the moments when you thought you couldn't go on, when the weight of it all felt unbearable. And yet you did. You kept moving forward. Maybe it didn't feel like strength at the time, but it was. Quiet, unyielding strength. The kind that doesn't announce itself, but changes everything it touches. You were never meant to be ordinary. That doesn't mean you need to wear a crown or stand on a stage. It means that your life, with all its twists and turns, carries a significance far greater than you may realize. You're here to break the patterns that have kept others bound. To be the one who says, "This ends with me." The one who chooses love where others chose fear. Who chooses healing where others chose silence. It's not an easy road, and it's not always clear. Sometimes it feels like walking through a forest at night with only the faintest glimmer of light to guide you. But even in those moments, even when doubt threatens to pull you under, know this: you are exactly where you're meant to be. The challenges you face are not proof of your weakness, but of your purpose. You wouldn't be here if you weren't strong enough to meet them, and you're not alone in this. The people who came before you, the ones who walked this earth carrying their own burdens, they dreamed of a day when someone like you would rise. They may not have had the words or the tools to break free, but they planted the seeds. And now, you are the one tending to the garden, bringing to life the beauty they could only imagine. This isn't just about you. It never was. Every time you rise, you lift others with you. You may not see it, but your courage has a ripple effect. It reaches the people you love, the strangers you cross paths with, and even those who will come long after you're gone. Your life is a beacon, a guide for others who are still searching for their way out of the darkness. So, what now? What does it mean to carry this mission, this calling? It means continuing to rise, even when it feels impossible. It means giving yourself grace on the days when the weight feels too heavy. It means remembering that even the smallest steps forward are still steps. And most of all, it means trusting yourself. Trusting that the light within you is brighter than the shadows around you. Trusting that every crack, every scar, every piece of you that once felt broken is part of the masterpiece you're creating. This is your life's work, not to fix everything, not to be perfect, but to keep going. To keep choosing hope, even when it feels out of reach. To keep believing in the power of transformation, even when the progress is slow. You are the chosen one, not in the sense of destiny, but in the sense of choice. You've chosen this path, and every day you choose it again. That choice is what makes you powerful. That choice is what changes everything. So, take a breath. Feel the weight of your purpose, but also the lightness of your resilience. You were made for this. And as you step forward, remember, every moment, every choice, every small act of courage is shaping not just your story, but the story of everyone who comes after you. What if everything you've faced, the heartache, the struggles, the sleepless nights, was never meant to hold you back, but to shape you? What if, hidden within your family's pain, within the stories that feel too heavy to carry, there's a key waiting for you to turn? A key that unlocks not just understanding, but a version of yourself that's freer, braver, and more alive than you've ever imagined. Look back. just for a moment and see how far you've come. Not with judgment or regret, but with the eyes of someone who has survived the storms they once thought would break them. The path you've walked hasn't been straight or smooth. It's twisted and turned. It's risen sharply when you least expected it and stretched endlessly when you felt too tired to take another step. But every step mattered. Every stumble and rise. Every choice to keep going. Even when the weight of it all felt unbearable. Today, you stand at a crossroads, not because you're lost, but because the road ahead is yours to choose. What will you make of this life you've been given? How will you honor not just the hardships you've endured, but the quiet triumphs that have brought you here? These are the questions only you can answer, and the answers are not written in stone. They are alive, changing as you grow, as you become. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe. Imagine what it feels like to let go, not of the past entirely, but of the grip it's had on your heart. Imagine taking the stories of struggle, of sacrifice, and weaving them into a tapestry of strength and wisdom. Not erasing them, but transforming them. Not rejecting where you came from, but rising because of it. You were never meant to carry these burdens forever. They were placed in your hands not to weigh you down, but to teach you how to hold them lightly, how to shape them into something new. You are not the pain of your family's history. You are its evolution. The one who chooses to break the cycles, not out of anger or resentment, but out of love. For yourself, for them, for the future you're building. And now, the question is, how will you begin? Not tomorrow, not when life feels easier, or when the answers come neatly packaged, but today. What is the smallest step you can take to honor your journey? Is it forgiving someone who may never ask for it? Is it setting a boundary? Or allowing yourself to rest? Or finally letting yourself believe that you are worthy of the life you dream of? This isn't about perfection. It never has been. It's about persistence. About waking up each day and choosing again and again to move forward, to lean into hope, even when it feels faint, to believe that the light within you, the one that has flickered but never gone out, is enough to guide you home. You are not defined by what's behind you, but by what you do with it. You are here to transcend, to grow, to rise into the fullness of who you are, not by becoming someone else, but by becoming yourself, the self who was always there, beneath the noise and the fear, waiting for you to see them clearly. So, take this moment. Let it settle into your chest like a promise, like the first bloom of spring after a long, hard winter. You are whole, exactly as you are. And from this place of enoughness, you will build something beautiful. You were never meant to be small. You are here to expand, to fill the spaces where silence once lived, to let your voice echo in places it was never heard before. You are here to turn the pain you've known into wisdom, into compassion, into a light that others can follow. And as you take that next step, remember this: you are not walking alone. Your ancestors are with you, their hands on your shoulders, their whispers in your ear, cheering you on as you go. The strength that carried them now flows through you. But what you do with it, that's the masterpiece only you can create. You are the chosen one, not because you stand apart, but because you made the conscious decision to rise, to embrace life fully, to love with depth, and to pursue transformation with courage. And it's a conscious choice. So, here's the truth. You are not the darkness. You are the light breaking through it. And today, right here, right now, you are exactly where you are meant to be. The rest is up to you.